Welcome to Stop Wasting Your Wine, a wine review podcast dedicated to helping you discover great wines with great value for every occasion. On this episode, we interview
Antonin Bonnet with Petit Sauvage.
Hey everyone, welcome back. We're super excited. I'm here with Colin. Maybe Joel in a bit. He's nap trapped right now. You know, we're thinking about him, but we're also joined with a guest today, coming with us from across the ocean in France. We're so excited to have Antonin Bonnet from Petit Sauvage with us. Antonin is one of the creative minds behind Pierre and Antonin Winery in Languedoc. He's all about making wine that's good for the planet and approachable for everyone, working with resistant grape varieties, natural winemaking, and eco-friendly packaging. With their Petit Sauvage wines, Antonin and his team are showing how sustainable wine can be fun, delicious, and accessible. Antonin, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Cheers. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. We're super excited.
Yeah, this is going to be cool. I think this is honestly our first, I would say, low intervention wine. We've had some other more, natural as far as organic and stuff is concerned, but I think this is our true first look at low intervention, which, we'll touch on in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think it's a scary topic, right? Like I know we're going to get into this later, but it's so niche for some people. Some people love it. Some people won't go near it. And so I'm so curious of your experience, like being in kind of the heart of wine world and what that's been like for you. So, I mean, let's just start off. So you and Pierre met in New York, right? Back in 2010. So what was that connection like, and how did you kind of move into this whole world?
Well, Pierre and I, we're from the south of France. Pierre is from Carcassonne and I'm from Montpellier. So it's about an hour from one city to the other. But we met in New York on the 4th of July of 2010. And
so cool.
yeah, so it's easy to remember.
It's a quite the day in New York City. It's rowdy.
It's quite a day. Well, because basically he knocked at my door. He said, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "This is my first week in New York City. I don't know anybody." So I pretended I had to check an agenda that didn't exist. And I said, "Well, I'll make some room and let's go out." So first we shared a bottle of wines. We were on 11th Street in the East Village in New York. And both of us, we were working for Rhone Valley producers on the selling side. Both of us, we have technical backgrounds. But at that time, working in sales in New York, when it was still, like I would say, a bit easier to sell wine.
Sure.
And both coming from winemaking families. Pierre's father is involved in winemaking. My father is a winemaker, so was my grandfather. But we started, our first jobs was really to sell wines abroad and selling wines in New York City. So that's how we met. We shared a bottle of Carignan. Pierre left about a year after that. We became friends. And then he went back to France. He asked me to join from the very beginning, but I wasn't ready. He started making wines in 2014, 2015. In the meantime, I worked for a very known Rhone Valley producer as the export director. And right before COVID, he convinced me to join. So I was involved at different levels. I work with them on the harvest. I work with them for the labels. I work with them to import his wines into the United States. I helped in many ways. I started investing. And then in 2020, when everything shifted, when people were kind of like us right now,
Right.
doing podcast interviews. And I said, okay, it's time for me to join. So he sold me 50% of the company. So now Pierre and Antonin is very simple. Marketing wise, very simple. It's Pierre and myself, 50-50. And that's how we connected. It was a very long talk. It was a talk from 2010 to 2019. There was an ongoing talk on how I could help. I could really, and then finally, after a couple of months as a sommelier, just to make a bit more money, because the story when you start a company, I mean, you don't make much. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
losing money. So I had to work on the side as a son to afford my cost of living.
Sure.
But starting in the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, Pierre and Antonin was real. We changed a bit everything because Pierre was doing something else. We changed the name of the winery, but we also changed the philosophy. Pierre is the reason why we started with resistant varietal.
Mm.
So pewees in German or hybrids in the US, depending, but it's all the same. And I am the reason why we went to natural winemaking. That's the combination of both. So when I say natural winemaking is, we'll talk about it, but it's organic viticulture certified, no added yeast, no added sulfur.
Yeah, and thank you for defining that because I feel that is a term that is very often confused because it's kind of amorphous. I would say the general consumer doesn't necessarily understand natural wine. So you kind of putting a definition behind that I think is really important because it's still one of those things that when people are talking about natural wine, unless they define it as you just did, I don't really know what they're talking about. It could be organic, it could be low intervention. So, I appreciate you kind of bringing that out. So, what is it about your background? And, you're from a winemaking family, you have some more technical skills, obviously making wine yourself. What is it that led you towards the natural wine side of things as opposed to a more conventional route?
That's a very, very good question. I would say that New York City had a lot of impact on this decision because I would go out with, I would present wines to very famous American, French, Italian restaurants in the city. And then I became friends with sommelier. And next thing you know, your sommelier friends, they end up in Bushwick in the middle of
I was gonna
Brooklyn.
joke when you said you lived in the Lower West Side. I was like, "Are you sure you're not in Brooklyn? Based on what you're doing, man? Like, this sounds like Brooklyn."
Exactly. So you got it right. So basically, we met with Pierre in his village, but I moved to Brooklyn very very right after this, basically in 2012, and then I lived in New York until very recently. I was still involved, going back and forth. So 6 months in France for the winemaking, and then the US was the major market by far, still the major market even with the tariff. But then, yes, the idea is I would go out with sommelier, and I became friends with them. And then, next thing you know, they're going to Brooklyn. They're going to drink La Palue, Marcel Lapierre, Nicolas Joly, Eric Pfefferling in the Rhone Valley. So natural wines, and I'm like, okay, well, I used to sell a very well respected brand. I mean, Chapoutier is still good wines, biodynamic wines,
Yeah,
organic wines. It's a major company. It's a big company,
sure.
but
Very well known.
I without saying this is bad, I was looking for something else, and I started discovering some of these places, Sost, one of them,
Hmm.
Ten Bells, a bunch of other locations where you would drink a lot of natural wines. I
Hey there. Sorry to be late. Sorry to interrupt. Nice to meet you.
it's all good.
No,
Nice
that's
to
okay.
meet you.
We already explained that you were probably like covered in poop and like dealing with babysitters. So
Not far
not the
off.
most appetizing for wine.
Not far
So
off, my friend. Yeah, sorry about that.
It's all good. It's all good. So that's really what happened. That's my connection to the natural wine world. That in New York was already back in 2010, 11, 12, already kind of established. Like in other cities, like think about Paris, but Copenhagen as well. A bunch of cities where you have a lot of farm to table approach on
yeah, yeah.
restaurants and stuff like that. So I got involved. I was interested. I tasted a lot of very, very good wines. And I agree to your point about defining natural winemaking. That's why I know it's a bit touchy sometimes.
Hmm.
But then all the sommelier working in 3-star Michelin restaurants, then they would go down in natural wine basements in Bushwick. I thought this is interesting. And that's how it started. Now, I don't like everything about natural winemaking. And for us, it's very important to say that a flaw is never something that we have to accept in the wine.
Mm,
So today, I hope what we try, there is
Sure.
no flaw. At least the
Yeah.
bottles I have, I try it, it's fine.
yeah.
But the idea is that even though the wine has no added sulfur, has no added yeast, is grown organically, that's the first step. I
Mm,
mean, if you want to be natural, to me, you have to be organic first in the viticulture.
sure.
But then, yes, the wines cannot be mouthy. They cannot be any Brettanomyces. They cannot. I mean, for me, my father is 72 years old. Is a winemaker. I call him the gatekeeper. So when I come with a new wine, a new cuvée that we make with Pierre, we make about a dozen. I want him to like the wines without saying, you should be aware of this, this, and that. No, first he has to be good,
Yeah, sure.
and then Eventually, I'll tell you how we make it.
I love that. Yeah.
I like that. You can't know until he's agreed that it's good. Yeah. Love that.
Well, but as the gatekeeper, that's the idea of saying, okay, I want your honest opinion. And now we are making, as we speak, the vintage 2025. Last on the 16th was the last day of the harvest, about 10 days ago. Now we feel comfortable, but I can tell you, vintage 2020, we had some weird stuff because, let's be humble. The first vintage is not your best one.
Sure. Yeah, you got to work it out. Absolutely.
Yeah. And Anton, just to pull back the curtain a little bit, I gotta tell you, man, you are just giving so much relief to Colin. We gotta tell you, like Colin, like for weeks, Colin has been terrified of doing a natural wine episode because it's not his fave. Because, and I'll let you talk to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
so
you're really just
I,
dogging him right now. Let the man.
This guy Colin, man,
Talk
let me
about
tell
his
you, he
stance.
just
So I am very sensitive to mousiness. So, and for me, it's a total ruiner. Even at like the low end of mousiness, it to me it tastes and I've really only experienced it in red wine, and I think that has to do a lot. And I this is a question I want to ask you later, but a lot to do with acidity in whites because I think that can kill some of that mousiness if I'm not incorrect. But it ranges from a red wine that's gone through malolactic and has some of that diacetyl in it to that diacetyl flavor that's completely spoiled. That's just rancid, disgusting cheese butter. So I stay away usually from, I would say, low intervention reds because I've just gotten burned so many times that it's honestly, for the most part, it's just not worth me popping another bottle. So I'm super interested to see how this one is.
No, it's a good point. I have to say, when we started, I mean, we had a non-sparkling pet nat. I can tell you that was funky. We never had any trouble with. So the secret for us to avoid any flaws, any contaminations, because we're mostly talking about contaminations. First, we go back to the fact that we do a lot of sparkling as well. Pierre and Antonin, we do a good amount of sparkling wines, Petit en naturel, spontaneous fermentation in bottles, méthode ancestrale, ancestral method. A pet nat is just a non-disgorge ancestral method. It's pretty simple. But the idea is that when we started from the very beginning, we knew that working with resistant varietals would help. Because we have a higher concentration of yeast, natural yeast, indigenous yeast.
Oh, sure.
So this is easier. The faster the fermentation starts, the easiest it is to avoid contamination in the beginning. Now, natural winemaking, I have long hair and I love working in the vineyard, but it also has to be the winery is clinical inside.
Yeah.
For sure.
We avoid any oak barrels because we don't know how to deal with this. So this is a good step to avoid Brettanomyces. First, we avoid barrels because, don't make me wrong, there's plenty of wines I love with barrels.
Sure.
We just don't like to make wines with barrels, so we make everything in concrete tanks for the reds. That avoids a lot of factors for contaminations. And stainless steel tanks when it comes to the whites and the rosé. And the pet nat are made in iso vats, and then, of course, the fermentation finishes in bottle. But the idea is that, yes, this is the first step. The second step is understanding, to your point about acidity, understanding how the wine functions. So yes, the Sauvignon Gris, the first wine that you have in your glass, the acidity level is really high. That wine goes through a complete malo, so then it's a little rounder, a little more dense. But then this wine is very easy to work as a natural wine. Some others were not. So we decided to go with the varietals that we felt the more comfortable with. To make it easy, really, is with the one with the acidity potential that were the highest. And that's also a very good factor. Another factor, there's plenty, but there is another one that is about bottling early in January and February. We're in the south of France. The estate is in Carcassonne. We have 5.8 hectares of land, about 12 acres of land in the US. But the idea is that by the end of February, everything is bottled.
Oh, wow.
So the natural wine is more fragile, I agree, but it's more fragile before it's bottled. Once it's bottled, if you don't have that popcorn notes at the bottling, the mousy notes of popcorn, that you like
Yep.
only in the movie theater.
That's right. That's
There's a
exactly
very
why I bought
little
it as Suzy.
chance. Exactly. There's a very little chance it will develop moving forward.
Mm.
And also, I have to say another factor is listening, 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 because there's a plenty of people that are kings about making Syrah. There's a lot of people that are very, very good at making Cabernet Sauvignon. There's plenty of people good at making Pinot Noir in Burgundy and Oregon and Washington State, whatever. But at making resistant varietals, not so much because it's something very recent. So we have to share with neighbors. We have to stay humble and make sure that it stays on track.
Yeah.
Now it has happened to us over the last 6 years that we had a couple of cuvées with flaws. We don't sell them. We take the hit, and then we try to understand what happened, and then we get better.
I just want to say before we move on, I appreciate the thoughtfulness you put into that, because you've obviously, you've heard people like me probably describe to you many times that they don't drink natural wine because they are also affected by mousiness. But I really appreciate that you guys have taken those steps to reduce the potential flaws. And I don't think, I don't think a lot of natural winemakers, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but I don't know if everybody has that same stance that you guys have. So I think that's a really unique value proposition for you guys just in the natural wine world. So I really appreciate that.
And thank you. And I want to say that also, I feel comfortable everywhere. I don't, someone has a Bordeaux, a Ponte Canet, I'm taking the good one. But, I have no dogma here. So if someone tells me it's a conventional wine, do you want to try it? It's fine. My cellar is full of wines from everywhere.
Sure.
Now it's and I have had that conversation with people in the past that used to tell me, okay, all natural wine is bad, or quite the opposite. And sometimes I call them, the Ayatollah. So everything has to be whatever they say, one side or the other. Not so many people are open to both. I'm open to both. And I recognize that some conventional wines are exceptional. And I recognize also that some natural winemakers have some troubles.
Yeah, sure.
And
Very
I
polite way
think
to
this
say it.
is fair. First, the wine has to be good, and then eventually it happens to be natural.
Yeah.
Now, if you ask me, I'd rather have everyone making wines without added sulfur, right? But I understand that depending on the climate, depending on the terroir, it's not that easy.
Amazing. Yeah. And so I want to pause just for a second, because we've used the term like resistant grape varietals a few times. And I wonder if you wouldn't mind like just taking a moment to explain to the listener at home, for folks who might not be familiar to what makes a resistant grape varietal versus, just your average varietal, and like what excites you about that work as part of your viticulture, and what are you excited about that moving forward?
So when we started, Pierre and I, the estate was in the middle of, west, the city of Carcassonne, which is known to be the largest medieval fortress in Europe.
Cool.
So the idea, I was about to say the world, but I'm pretty sure in China they've got something bigger. I don't know. It's like, let's say Europe.
You can see it from space. Yeah.
Before I check, I'll have to check this. So when we started, we're in the middle of two AOP, Appellation d'Origine Protégée, Malper and Cabardes. Nobody knows about them. My father, that was a winemaker in the Terrasse du Larzac, that is a pretty good appellation in Languedoc, never heard of them, and they're an hour away. Cabardes and Malper, they're not helping you. So when we started brainstorming with Pierre about the varietals we had to plant, we thought about a gentleman named Alain Bouquet. That used to be one agronomic professor in Montpellier, one of the largest agronomic university. And he was talking about the resistant varietals, what the Germans call Piwi, what we call hybrid varietals. And we said, you know what, this is let's look at this. It was interesting. We talked about Couder in Ardèche. We remembered some Sauvigny in Germany. We remembered some Sauvignac and Maréchal Foch in Quebec. All these varietals all of a sudden connected. And the approach was that the resistant varietal is better against cryptogamic disease. So against mildew, against oidium. That's the one that are European, because in Quebec, for example, in Canada, in Ontario, they have varietals that are resistant against the coldness, about the fact that it's very, very cold over there. So the main idea about resistant varietals is what humans have done for years, crossing different varietals, different species, and making sure they could, become immune on their own. So it's quite the opposite as GMO because we don't touch the genotype at all.
Sure.
And I want to make it very, very clear it's the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is by crossing, because 99% of what you have on the shelves is the Vitis vinifera, because you've got plenty, and the story about French grapes being American rootstock.
Sure.
The idea is that you have Vitis rupestris, Aestevalis, Lambrusca. These are varietals that are immune against mildew, powdery mildew, oidium, botrytis, etc., etc. And then we combine them with Vitis vinifera that are better to taste than these white vine plants. Let's call them white vine plants, so we don't have to stay with the Latin words. And then by crossing them, then eventually you have the varietals that we grow today that are not very known but are becoming more and more known. Among them, you have the Sauvigny Gris, the first wine that we have today. The white wine and the orange wine are Sauvigny Gris. And the Sauvigny Gris parents, they have very different parents. They have Solaris, the ones that are coming from white vine plants. There is some Céval. And then you have some Vitis vinifera. So you have some Cabernet Sauvignon. And you have some Zaringer from Germany, because the Sauvigny Gris was originally made in 1982 or 1983 at the border of the French and the German border. So they made that in the University of Fribourg, if I'm not mistaken. So these guys made them, agronomic engineer, and they realized that, the beauty is mildew and oidium, which are the main problems that we have.
Yeah.
It's not impacting the Sauvigny Gris. So why is this important? Well, on top of being organic is no chemicals, no chemical products. On top of that, we don't have any sulfur and we don't have any copper, because copper and sulfur are against mildew and oidium.
Gotcha.
So we call them, Pierre and I, super bio. We don't say that. Oh, sorry, I said, that's a podcast. Too bad. Usually we don't say that.
Say whatever you want.
But the beauty is that to go one step ahead, the beauty is not only we don't use any pesticides, herbicide, and fungicide,
Awesome.
no chemical products at all, which is even more interesting because Pierre's father was also involved in making chemical products for the vineyard, and Pierre told him, I'm not interested. We want to change.
Wow.
Not
So
getting any business from you guys.
Yeah.
So exactly. So he was brave enough to basically say, I don't want to inherit the business. We sell it and we do something else, which is pretty brave. I mean,
Yeah.
Pierre is next time, hopefully. Pierre has also 2 kids, so today was not
Sure.
available.
Get that.
But next
can all
time,
relate.
hopefully,
Yeah.
you can relate. So that's really the base of resistant vitals. So we have a Grenache Bouquet, we make a Sauvigny Gris, we make a Cabernet Cortis, and that's what Pierre and Antonin stands for. It was very clear for us that we're not going to make a Cabernet that everyone knows or a Malpère, nobody knows about them. And then the terroir approach was not very, very important for us so much as really the vital approach, trying to be as eco-conscious as possible. So
Yeah.
the first step, and what's the most important for us, the keystone, is resistant vitals. Then organic viticulture, and then natural winemaking. It's the third one. It's only because we tried, we realized it was possible. We said, okay, so we got rid of sulfur and added yeast. And the last one that still make a difference is locally produced and eco-conscious packaging. So the bottle of the glass that we have is produced 80 kilometers from the estate in France. We use cork made in Roussillon. We use labels made of stem, hemp, and linen. And even the wax, we use the wax ourselves. We don't use any aluminum foil because France doesn't produce any aluminum. And the idea is we try to be, I still take a plane to go to the US once in a while, so
Sure.
I'm not 100%, but the idea is as much as we can, we try to reduce the carbon footprint and to lower down the energy consumption. That's the entire idea of Pierre and Antonin.
So and
That's amazing.
that leads me to a question here, because I'm listening to everything you're explaining about just kind of your approach and why you all decided to go this route. And what sticks out to me is there's no shortcuts here. and you're really kind of pursuing a, more difficult, more risky sort of approach to winemaking with a lot of passion behind. So the question that comes to my mind is, what is it about that method that is so important to you personally that you've kind of built your style around that?
Why was it so important?
Yeah.
I think it's part of. I mean, it was in the very beginning. It was let's give it a try.
Sure.
I mean, um,
Nice.
Yeah.
I have to be honest that we were like, I mean, the first time we made some cuvée, I remember some of my friends saying it's interesting. Well, when it's interesting,
That's nice.
you know what it means. No, we wanted to do something else. We wanted to make. We were very close to Limoux, so making bubbles was also a good idea because we like to drink bubbles. We wanted to do something different. Petit Sauvage. These varietals. They used to be called the foxy varietals. Foxy, variété foxy in French, foxy varietals. So instead of hiding it, we put a fox on the front of the label, trying to catch the grapes.
I love it.
Then we realized as afterwards that it was La Fontaine story, but we didn't know that when we made the label.
Gotcha.
So no, in the beginning it was just some sort of an intuition. It was instinct.
Yeah.
It was like let's give it a try. We're not the first one. In France, some people made. I mean, someone very known in Jura, Valentin Morel, makes some Sauvigny Gris, planted a couple of years before us. You find some Sauvigny Gris in northern Italy as well, of course, in Germany as well. But some of our resistant varietals are French, were born in France. Some of them were born in Germany. One of them is born in Switzerland, Cabernet Noir. But the idea is that we don't really mind. We try, we taste, we plant some, we travel, we go to see other people. There's some made in Charente, in Vendée, Ile-de-Ré, near La Rochelle in France as well. Some made also near Marseille, Cluse. Every time we make a phone call and we say, oh, can we come and taste your resistant varietals, see how they behave, how they work. People are very, open-minded, very happy about us doing that. Even in Quebec, I was talking about Quebec earlier, there's a couple of places where also they have resistant varietals, different protection, but the same idea. Being spending less resources to grow vine plants, and the key idea, to answer your question quickly, I'm sorry.
No, that's great.
The key idea is
it's great.
I'm learning
If
a
you
lot
want-
right now. I'm trying to put it all in.
but for us, if you want to change the world, and I think this is something I got from my years in the United States. If you want to change the world, the first mission is to be profitable. Because if you're not profitable, next year you're out of business, you don't change anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
And that was the idea from the get-go. I mean, yeah, of course we lost some money the first 2-3 years, but the idea was to make them accessible, make the resistant varietals accessible. Am I going to make another Côte du Rhône or another Roussillon wine or another Languedoc? Sure, maybe, maybe with the people I knew in New York, it could have worked. But the idea is let's reverse the table, let's do something else. And again, you make Merlot in Pomerol, it's great for you. You've been in the family for 7-8 generations, it's fantastic. We're first generation, so it was a clean sheet. So let's create something different, right?
Sure.
If you're in Châteauneuf-du-Pape, I understand why you don't plant any resistant varietals.
Right,
I understand. I understand why in Châteauneuf-du-Pape you don't wake up in the morning saying, let's plant some Sauvigny Gris.
Yeah.
If you're in Burgundy, it's the same. But if you're in Napa Valley, I understand why you stick with Cabernet.
Sure.
That's understandable.
Yeah.
Us, there was no protection, and there was not the luxury of the appellation.
Sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Very cool.
So we said, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Why not? But
Go
with a
for
very
it.
practical thought process to it as well. I love that. Yeah. Step one is you have to make it money. You have to make it marketable, and build from there. But also doing something with such a vision too. It's a great intersection of the two. I love it.
Well, that's the idea. Going slow. Pierre has been a great help as well because he was established, so he knew people, and they're conservative in the way he handles the company. So we were very cautious in the beginning, but the idea was really to explain. And the first market that was, of course, receptive to the philosophy was the US, was Brooklyn, really. And until last year, I mean, half of the bottles that we sold last year were sold in Brooklyn alone.
Wow.
Brooklyn, not the US.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's wild.
Now
Checks out though.
everything's
I mean,
now everything's changing a little bit because we started working with Japanese importers,
oh,
and then we don't make that much, so when we make a bit more, then we onboard a new importer. We're not going to tell everyone, yes, let's start together.
Sure.
Every year we make another 5, 6, 7, 8,000 bottles more, so every year we'll onboard new people. And then for us it's important as well. Pierre was in Korea, South Korea, a month ago, because then if you onboard someone, then because you're talking about something that not a lot of people know,
Yeah.
you have to go there
Sure.
and explain what you do.
Sure.
yeah, really
Otherwise,
sure,
it's going to stay on the shelves and collect the dust.
for sure. So, what part of natural winemaking is the most difficult? Not being able to use chemicals or using natural yeast can sometimes not be an easy thing. So, what have you found the most difficult part of making natural wine?
Well, the one that is the most demanding is the fermentation to start. So we do pied de cuve, like the bread.
Oh,
So
okay.
basically, we grow our own yeast before we re-inoculate the tanks. Because sometimes, a tank, you don't know why the fermentation doesn't
Just shuts
start,
down. Yeah, sure.
or it shuts down, or it's too slow. So
Mhm.
you're at risk when this happens. So this is, this is the first thing that comes to my mind. For the pet nat as well, it was very complicated to understand exactly what's the ratio, the stoichiometric proportion. So at the end of the fermentation inside the bottle, there is no sugar left. If there is no sugar left, the wine cannot go back into fermenting in bottles. That was also key.
Mm,
Understanding. So you come to exactly what's the level of sugar you have to bottle the wine with, and then you go back to the harvest and harvest at the right time, so you have the right amount of sugar. Because in natural winemaking, there's no intervention, and there's no, of course,
right.
no adding sugar,
No additions. Yep.
and there's no chaptalization, there's no stuff like that. So the idea is it's a kind of a retro planning. This is what you want, and this is how you have to work, and have to make sure that everything's planned ahead. Because if there is a problem, there's no way you can, cure it. You have to plan ahead. So in the beginning, we do smaller cuvées, and that's really where it's very, very interesting. The most complicated is anticipation. Anticipate what we'll be doing, and to make sure the tanks start fermenting. Once the tanks start fermenting, then we feel good, and then we feel relieved more than just after the harvest. When people tell you it's the tunnel of the harvest, to me the tunnel ends at the end of November, when we're sure that everything goes into fermentation, and then the bottling happens in January and February. At the bottling moment, then that's when we feel relieved.
Yeah.
Really. But this is the most demanding, and this is the most demanding
Sure.
by far. Now we're not so much scared about contamination anymore. Again, Rumi says you don't use barrels, you're fine. We understand it now.
Sure.
So, and once you have a recipe and it works, well, you
Yeah, why
you
change
stay
it?
with
Yeah.
it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah, and it kind of, again, a common theme, I think, is, again, the work that's going into making these wines, natural, but also keeping them really, accessible and inviting, both in the flavor and in the price, and making it something that, isn't scaring people away. It's you can get in there and try these wines that are made in this really, really, kind of strict style. So, I mean, how do y'all do that? Was that a conscious decision to make sure that, there is a level of affordability true to the winemaking principles that y'all have? How do you find that balance?
Okay, that's a very, very good question, because that's a question that we ask ourselves from the get-go,
Sure.
from the very beginning. So, of course, trying Coulée de Séran, Nicolas Joly, trying Marcel Lapierre, Cuvée Camille, that's 30, 40. Eric Pfefferling, Sel d'Argent. This is, again, $50, $60
Yeah.
on the shelves in New York, or in France, it's about the same price. The idea is how we make them accessible. Someone said, it's not coming from me, I wish, but he said, you're democratize natural wines. You're making wines, what did he say? By the wallet accessible by the palate, affordable by the wallet.
I love that. Yeah.
And I was like, damn it, I wish I had, I made that up, but I didn't. Someone else did. But the idea is, yes, what's the reason behind that? Well, buying 1 hectare of land where we are is about 15,000 euros, right? The same amount of the same hectare in the Côte d'Iron will cost you somewhere between 60 and 80,000. Châteauneuf-du-Pape will be 300,000. Hermitage will be a million. Any Grand Cru Champagne will be 2 or 3.
Wow.
And then, of course, you look at Burgundy, and this is another story. So that's how we can afford making cheaper wines.
Sure.
We can afford making cheaper wines because the land is cheaper. And when we started as well, we are producer and négociant. And négociant is not, we don't buy Cabernet, Merlot, and we put our labels on it. No, we buy grapes, we make wines. It has to be only resistant vitals. There's a few exceptions that we're stopping because you can't change your winemaking one day, from one day to another, because you still have Carignan. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Put that in the gutter. So you still make Carignan. We still have a Chardonnay. So until we get rid of the Chardonnay, we still have Chardonnay. But 90% of what we make now is resistant vitals. And yes, from the very beginning, the idea was to make them accessible, to make them affordable on the shelf. So Petit Sauvage would be somewhere in the US around $15-16 on the shelves.
Amazing.
And the Pet Nat we make about $20. Now we have other cuvées that would be a bit more expensive, but nothing above $30.
Wow.
And the idea is, if I'm a consumer, and I go into a wine store and someone tells me you have to try something is new, is a resistant vital, it's $60. I'm like, I don't know about that.
Right.
But if someone tells me it's 15, then it's a different story. Is okay, I'm trying something different. And then that's why, retail owners, we have to train them, because they give the story and then someone's so happy to say, well, this is a resistant vital and nobody has heard of it.
Yeah.
2 or 3 years ago, when I was talking to sommelier, 10% knew about resistant vitals. Maybe now it's about 20 or 25 or 30%. We hear about them more and more. But it's our job to really, tell the story and explain why we're doing it. And we have to be accessible, because if we're not accessible, people are not going to try them.
Sure.
And people are not going to buy them.
Yeah.
So it's as easy as that.
Sure. Yeah.
For sure.
We're super excited to try them ourselves and to get into them with you. And I feel like just got like a mini masterclass on natural wine. So I really appreciate it. I'm logging all this away. Before we get into the wines, can we get rapid fire a couple fun questions at you?
Yeah, of course, please. I'm taking a sip before answering these questions.
Love it. I'm gonna join you. Take it.
Joel, you have the first one.
Oh, sorry. I'm focused on my wine now at this point. If you're not drinking your wines, what are you most likely drinking at home?
That's a very good question. I'm last weekend, so I lived in the US for a long time. I had some Ridge Montebello. I had some friends working for the importer, so I would exchange samples back in the days. I had the Montebello Ridge 1994. What I love to do is to do blind tasting in France at my house. And I put an American wine in the middle of the lineup.
So fun.
Just because nobody is expecting me to do that.
Yeah.
And it's still my link to it. So there's a bunch of old, this is a classic. That's where I was looking for.
Yeah.
So some Sandland wines as well in California, especially the Chenin Blanc that we had in the Trousseau. Pierre and I, we fell in love with the Trousseau. That's a good wine. Because they're linked to Maxime Graillot, Alain Graillot, and that's the winemaker on both sides in the Rhone Valley. We have access to these wines, so this is a wine that I would drink on a regular basis. So the Trousseau and the Chenin Blanc. They make also Mataro, but from Sandlands, that's something that I drink. I think I'm the French that drink the most American wine at least. But outside of that, I would say, you can't go wrong with white Burgundy. White wines in general. I drink mostly white.
Oh, okay, nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, very cool.
Nice.
Wonderful.
So what is your go-to food pairing with both the white and the red Petit Sauvage?
Oh, that's a very good one. So to me, the Sauvigny Gris, because of this little apple apple notes, pear notes, poached apple and poached kind of cooked pear. And also that little white tea notes goes very, very well with cheese. This is
Oh,
something I found.
lovely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Nice.
would say for me, like getting started, like if I wanna, like the other day, let's not be too French here, but last time we had some pecorino. I had, we eat some cheese to get started,
Sure.
like the Italians, like the Spanish,
Uh-huh.
like also, I mean, everywhere we do that.
Sure.
And we had some pecorino cheese with the wine to get started. That worked very, very well.
Nice.
The white goes very, very well with cheese. And in general, I like to drink white wine with cheese, with the exception of one or two. But that is the first answer. Another one that is maybe a bit more weird is when you make a white meat, like a veal blanquette, for example.
Mm-hmm.
This is a kind of powerful white. It's still very, very dense. So anything creamy with mushrooms would actually work too.
Nice.
Oh,
Champignon de
lovely.
Paris, chanterelle, stuff like that. These are the two pairings that when I want to show my wine to my friends, this is how I put the white wine. I think that gives it the best angle,
Gotcha.
either with the veal or with the cheese at the end of the day.
Nice.
And for the red, everything with tomato.
Ah.
It's crazy. It works very well with tomato.
Nice.
Very
Ratatouille.
cool.
Ratatouille is a good one.
Yeah, sure.
Nice.
But even like a very simple, because it's very juicy at the end, but you still get like a little tannic notes, like a simple margarita pizza. Let's not be too complicated.
Sure. That sounds perfect.
Not gonna give you some. I remember working for some wine companies, and they would put stuff on the back label. I'm like, nobody's cooking that.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody is. Nobody's
But a
gonna make a
margarita pizza
coco.
sounds great.
A margarita is pretty simple. Nobody's gonna make a coq au vin or
Right.
lapin à la moutarde. Mustard rabbit.
Yeah.
Don't put that on the back label. No, but a margarita, tomato based, that's good too. It goes very, very well. It's on the lighter side when it comes to Petit Sauvage. So that's the easy pairing. That's the one that I promote.
Love it.
Wonderful. All right, if you could share a glass of wine with anyone, living or dead, who would it be?
Oh, that's a very, very good question. With someone, actually, I saw that question and I told myself I'm gonna have to think about it, and I did not. So now you have me think
Put you on
live.
the spot.
No, I thought about it. I think it's Alain Bouquet. So Alain Bouquet was that French agronomic engineer that
Oh, yeah,
inspired
great.
everything we've done. I think he passed away in 2007, 2008, so I never got a chance to meet him.
Mm-hmm.
But he's the one that, against all odds in France, and why the Germans were doing it, the Italians as well, the Swiss were doing it. And in France, we thought for some reason this was not something that we had to do, that we had to stay with the Vitis vinifera. So he worked by himself for pretty much 20 years with everyone saying, we put you we say in French, we put you in the closet. So you can't really, you don't get access to anything. So he worked on it. He believed in it. And right before he passed away, he gave his production to students, and these students made the promotion of these varietals. And we make a rosé made of Grenache Bouquet. So I would have loved to have thoughts back then, talking about someone that is not with us anymore. And that would have been great, because sometimes we have questions and we can only assume,
Yeah.
but we don't know for sure. But working in a place for the where nobody talks to you, nobody believes in you for 20 years, and you still believe in what you're doing, and then making some resistant vitals. In our line of work, yes, we would have loved to talk to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Very
Yeah.
cool. All right. Well, we have learned a ton. Thank you for sharing all that with us. I feel
so
like everything that you shared, like everything from like who you drink with to how you make wine, is like very intentional and thoughtful, and we really appreciate it. Now we'd love to drink your wine.
Absolutely. Please,
Okay.
let's do it.
Absolutely.
Tastes like wine.
So we're gonna start. We're gonna start with the white, right? So would you mind giving our listener the detail of what we're about to drink?
So if this one, the Petit Sauvage. Petit Sauvage is a sous-vinegre. So Petit Sauvage, again, going back to the name, it's small and wild. We put a fox on the front label because, back then he was called Foxy Vitals, les Foxés, Variétés Foxées in French. And we said, well, instead of hiding it, let's be proud of it, because even though my grandfather and my father used to think that hybrids could never make good wines, we think differently. It's a bit harder, but then this is 2024. Are we drinking the same vintage? Yes, we are, right?
So,
Because I checked. So 2024 is our
yes.
fifth
Yep.
vintage. The first vintage was 2019.
Cool.
And Sauvigny is very interesting because it's very, very acidic as a grape vital. But and you know, they make some in the Netherlands.
Hmm.
They make some in
Oh,
Sweden
Hmm.
as well. Very, very different
interesting.
from what you're getting. Because in the
Sure.
south of France, we get a lot of sun.
Yeah.
So it's very ripe. At the same time, it's very jammy, very round.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the
Yeah.
nose, I mean, I hate to describe what people are supposed to smell,
Please.
but it's a lot
No,
of
that's okay.
it's a lot of apple, citrusy apple notes, Macintosh notes, and then you have that
Yeah.
little cooked pear notes.
Mm-hmm.
So when I put them in a blind tasting, very often I get two answers. I get the Grüner Veltliner by the nose, or I get the Chenin Blanc.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Oh,
And
interesting. For sure.
and this is, or even like a third one, but for the ones that are very, very good at wine tasting, sometimes they say Mosaque, which is a local varietal
Hmm.
where we are.
Gotcha.
But this is about the nose. We get that granny pear note,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
by the palate, it's very round, fruit forward. But then we get a good acidity level. Malo is full here. We don't push the malo, but if the malo happens, the malo happens,
Gotcha.
That's
and
crazy.
usually the malo happens.
Yeah, the one thing that really pops out is the brightness of the
Mm-hmm.
acidity, but also the ripeness of the fruit. You usually have underripe fruit when you have this level of acidity, but this has a really nice balance between that mouthfeel, which I'm sure comes a little bit from the mallow, and that super bright acidity. It's really nice, and no mousiness on the white wine. So this is about as clean as wine gets. So it really,
I'm
Colin,
glad to hear. Coming from you, it means a
yep,
lot.
Colin is
yep,
a happy man.
Absolutely.
I am.
No, it's very, very important to avoid that. And well, now again, when I tell my importers and my clients, it's natural wine, but it's not a grenade. It's fine.
For sure,
Uh,
for sure.
it's not gonna explode in your hands, and if you forget it about a year in your cellar, I mean, these are wines are not made to age. Let's
Sure.
be completely
Sure.
honest.
Yeah.
No sulfur reduce the aging potential.
Sure.
That's clear. I mean, when you look at some people, I had a chance to try La Tour 1961 in Magnum a while ago, I mean, a long
Wow.
time ago when I was a sub. But these wines, they're exceptional, but they had a level of sulfur that really make them,
Yeah.
through the years,
Mm-hmm.
it's a bit easier.
For sure.
When you have less sulfur, I mean, clearly you have less aging potential. Now, some of the best winemakers, and last time I have a Ganva from 83, I believe, and it was fantastic. It was very bright and good.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the natural winemakers, they have exceptional aging potential.
Mm-hmm.
For us, let's be honest, I don't know yet, because first vintage was 2019.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
for now, we don't have any trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But I would recommend to drink that wine within 3 to 5 years.
Sure.
Sure.
Gotcha.
We're trying
Yeah.
some on the whites and the red. We're trying to age some in bottles and some in eggs,
Ah.
concrete eggs.
Yeah.
Let's see what we make. But for now, we don't have the view, the perspective on aging natural wines
Is
at
the
our
Yeah.
facility.
is the egg, is that a concrete egg or is it clay egg? What would that be?
For the reds, concrete
Okay.
eggs, but it's very, very new
Yeah.
because we just bought them. So we just put the wines in them 2 days ago.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Very new. Joel, Colin, is there anything else you guys are picking up on the nose or the palate, or anything else that you wanna name in your experience?
Honestly, I love that you just said like a little, salty minerally. That was going to be the only other thing I was going to call out. And that's just in general, just how bright
Nice
and
mineral.
lovely that is. It's just enjoying it very much.
The final, it's a word again that I learned in the US, but
Yeah.
ocean breathe. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
what we like about that, kind of the retrofaction at the end.
Mhm.
This
Sure.
is something when someone tells me this, I think it's what makes me the happiest.
Yeah. Love that.
And the finish on this wine is delightful. I mean, it's still going.
Yeah.
Like I'm still I took a sip, maybe a minute or two ago, and it's still that really nice appley pear kind of green fruit type finish, but it keeps going and it's really pleasant. So that's huge for me. I love it, a wine that you can enjoy after you stop drinking.
Thank you.
which I
Appreciate it.
also feel like is tough. And please, I know nothing about the not much about the winemaking process, but I feel like that's tough to do when you have, a good amount of acid in there too. I feel like sometimes that kind of shuts things down and locks it away, and that's kind of all you can focus on. But in this case, you kind of got both happening, and it's a really, really nice situation there.
Well, to be honest, we've made that wine. I mean, 2024. We changed a few things, and this is the wine I'm the proudest of. Pierre and I, we are the proudest at the moment. He made it to the top 100 of the wine enthusiast. I don't know if it's by chance, but I think it's the one that really deserved it. We had some very good comments from American publications, but also from other people, and we're out of stock.
Amazing.
Which is good. Absolutely. Right before we bottled the 2025, so that tells a lot. But it's the vintage. But the Sauvignon Gris is, and we have the orange as well that is made of Sauvignon Gris. The Sauvignon Gris is the varietal that we handle the best, I think.
Gotcha.
Nice.
Very cool. Staying humble.
Sure.
It's the one that we feel the most comfortable with.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll say I don't have to stay humble because I don't work for you guys. Like, I think this would be an excellent example of if someone wanted to try natural wine and they weren't sure about natural wine, or they've heard about things and they are a white wine drinker. This would be something that I would very confidently hand to them and say, like, try this.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing about this that is any kind of like negative like takeaway, like, oh god, this is so different. It's just like these really nice complex tastes and experience that I also feel like you could hand to someone, never tell them it was natural wine, and they would just think it's a unique wine, a unique blend, and then you can be like, aha, I got you. Like, it's, and I think that's really cool.
But I love to do that. So I love to I love blind tasting. I'm very bad at it, but I still love it.
I can relate.
And when it's my turn to organize it, usually I put the Sauvignon Gris in the middle of other, like, you put that in the middle of Jura wines. People can't, in the middle of Loire Vallée Chenin, or in the middle of Jura wines, in the middle of the Ardoisière the other day. I mean, it's impossible to guess that you're back in the south of France. It's really, really confusing. And it's fun to do that.
100%. It's a big gotcha.
and same as you put like a very old Gevrey Chambertin in a lineup of Northern Rhone wines that are 25 or 30 years old. You never pick the Pinot Noir, or you'll feel like the Syrah, goes onto the Pinot, ça pinote, we say in French. But this is kind of fun, and that's why I think, to your point, is to say, okay, well, is the wine good? Yes or no? And then eventually you tell them how you make it. But when you go to a restaurant, you like the dish or you don't like the dish. Right. That's the first question.
Yeah.
And then if you like the dish, you ask how it's made. If you don't like it, well, you don't care so much.
Sure. That's awesome. I love that.
All right, let's get into the red. Absolutely.
So I have the red is, I took a sample and I just realized there is no label, so I'm not showing you the bottle because there is no label.
We'll post the pictures for sure.
Because usually we take the mislabel bottles at home for sampling.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But it's the same wine.
Oh no, the label's messed up. I guess I'll take this home. Oh man. Yeah. Wonderful.
So the Cabernet Cortis is the brother or the sister of Sauvignon Gris. They were made about the same year. I think Sauvignon Gris was made in 1982. Cabernet Cortis were made in 1983 by the same German agronomic engineer. They have the same parents. They have the same Vitis vinifera parents, Cabernet Sauvignon being the big one on the Vitis vinifera, Solaris, Céval Blanc on the other one for the white vine plants. So even though they're very, very different, genetically speaking, they're about the same. The Cabernet Cortis is very, very interesting because it does very small, little lead. It looks like lead in French, lead, little bille of lead. So very, very small little grapes, very thick. So in the beginning, it was hard for us to have something a bit rounder. But in fact, after 5 or 6 years, because our vine plants are in between 7 to 9 years old, and we're planting a bit more every year. We have a wine that is a bit more round, a bit more juicy now. But in the beginning, in the early years, it was a bit more tannic. This is made eventually to be consumed as a chilled red.
Gotcha.
By the nose, I mean, I'll let you give me your feedback. But for me, it's like a blackberry crumble, It's like the
Oh, yeah.
combination, a bit of blackberry and black currant
Yeah.
crumble,
Sure.
kind of,
Definitely.
that cooked little dough, and at the
Hmm.
same time fruits, and it's very fruit forward by the nose, and
Is
and
there also
that's
a little bit of pepperiness, or like there's like a non-fruit? I don't know if it's green, or I don't know if it's pepper. Is there something, one of those that you usually find in this?
so I hear a lot pepper. Yes, the which one, the style of pepper doesn't come to my mind at the moment. So for the greenness, I get a lot of sometimes I get sage. People tell me
Oh,
sage.
I can see that.
oh,
Yeah.
that is,
And
yeah.
but yeah, I get pepper. I get sage notes as well. I
Mm.
get a little smokiness towards the end as well. And this wine has been changing a lot recently. Today, I get a lot of pepper,
Yeah.
pepper notes.
Yeah, and not no mousiness. This is as clean as a clean wine gets. 100% clean.
Colin's a happy
Not
boy.
a little. Listen,
Looks like I'm gonna be reinvited one day.
Yeah.
yeah,
100%. 100%. Absolutely.
100%.
That's
No,
good.
I would say like the nose is definitely very unique, right? I think the white wine, there's a lot, a lot of pear, a lot of apple, like, things you get on white wines rather often. And I think, as I am the food dummy on this show. I have a palate of a 5-year-old. So like, when someone says like black currant, like I'm not sure on my own what that smells like.
I see.
So, but so I would say this has a very unique, I really like the peppery sage kind of direction of that, because it does feel like it has this kind of herbal scent to it that is very pleasant, but I would also say very unique. I couldn't point to, I don't think I could point to a moderate to novice wine drinker and say this smells like blank.
Yeah, yeah.
Within the way it's a very unique experience.
Thank you. And yeah, if you can make a good ratatouille, it's not that complicated. Zucchini, eggplant, some tomato, herbe de Provence or oregano, and that pairs very, very, very well.
Oh, I can see
And
that.
then eventually veal cutlet, veal chops. That's pretty easy because it's juicy at the end. So everything is made in concrete tanks, and then this is the last one we bottled. So usually last week of February, beginning of March.
That's awesome.
And that wine has aging potential. 2023 is drinking best now. So 2024 maybe eventually in 2 or 3 months. And that we have a bit more. We still have some wine to drink, so that's good. We'll see the evolution. Because, the resistant varietals, usually we make mostly white wines and we get demand mostly for white wines.
Yeah, there's some really nice structure to this wine. Just the one other thing I wanted to point out.
I was going to ask about
There's
that.
some
Yeah.
really nice tannin. Like it's grippy, but it's round. It's not offensive in any way. So it's a really nice structural experience as you're drinking the wine, because it's nice. You get the high acid and it's a really nice tannin too. So it's all very well balanced along with the flavor profile.
Thank you.
And again, the finish on this wine. I don't know. You guys are like experts at really nice finishes, because they're just fantastic. Like, you
Thanks.
don't always, I think that's such a hard component of wine to get right, is a nice finish. And these wines just have finish for days, and it's really, really nice. So
Thank you.
just
Absolutely.
really nice.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And am I crazy to be getting just like a little bit of a really, and I love this, but just a little bit of a funkiness, just like just a little bit of almost like the kind that you get from a Cab Franc, just like a little bit in there. It's perfectly
Yeah,
right in the
well,
middle. It's
yeah.
not invasive at all. It adds, it supplements the experience very well.
Yeah, you have a little funkiness in this wine. I mean, a little artichoke funkiness that we get,
I like that. Yeah.
and it's light, but it's there. Well, that's fine with us. It's a bit of something a little crazy.
Oh,
but
Yeah,
yeah.
little
it
funk
stays
is
under
fine.
control.
And it's
Yeah,
100%.
but no mousiness. So listen, give me the funk.
Yeah.
Just, don't give me the mouse.
That's exactly my
this
point.
doesn't.
Yeah, it's perfectly integrated into the experience too. Definitely a very nice part of the sip. That's for sure.
Thanks,
Yeah.
appreciate it. Yeah, but yes, you get that little, just the right amount of funk.
Yeah.
We've seen it and we love it. That's yeah, it's still natural winemaking. I mean,
Definitely. Well, I think that's cool. I
it's the
mean,
way it is.
to me, that highlights one of the really cool elements of natural winemaking as well, when it's done really nicely. And this is a great example of that.
Well, thank you.
For sure.
Thank you very much. And next time, I don't know if you travel together and see wine estate sometimes, but if you want to see what we do and you want to come, we have an office in Montpellier because we live in Montpellier. The estate is in Carcassonne. So if you go to Montpellier or Carcassonne,
Cool.
I'll be happy to take you in my Citroën and show you around.
That sounds lovely. Yes.
I mean,
yes.
and you're going to cook for us too. I seem to recall you offering.
Well, that's the beauty. I mean, it's really for the Citroën and the cooking that you should come.
Absolutely. I'm there.
No, we always appreciate an open invitation,
Yeah.
and when we do our first Stop Wasting Your Wine tour of Europe, we will definitely
European
come by.
road trip.
100%.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure.
Yeah. You let me know. It's pretty easy. We're pretty easy. We're pretty small, so we
Nice.
can accommodate easily.
Love it.
That's wonderful. Excellent. All right. So, I mean, amazing, really great stuff. So we review wines in the show a little differently than your normal wine review people. We don't like numbers for wine reviews because numbers don't mean anything to people. What's the difference between a 90 and a 92 and a 94, like when it comes to walking through a total wine and there's 7,000 bottles in front of you. So we like to talk about wine the way, it's just how you experience and where you should experience and, when you should experience it. So, it's either a drain wine, meaning it's no good. It's a backup wine, which means it's passable, but save it if you need it. A casual sipper is kind of around the house if you like it. A must share are those great wines that you should, share with other people. And then our fridge wines are our personal top 3. Colin, can I ask you to start off? How are you rating these wines?
Yeah, but did they like it? It's time for the review.
Yeah, I mean, if this was every bottle of natural wine that I opened up, I would drink much more natural wine because these are fantastic. It's really good. Just the flavors on both of them. Again, like I can't get over the finishes, to be honest. Like, because that, for me, especially when I'm rating wine, how the experience ends and how the sip ends is so important. And on both of these, it's delightful and it lasts for days. They're just both really well-made wines, no mousiness, and coming from Mr. Anti-Mouse, like, that's huge.
what everyone calls him.
That's true.
Yeah, that's my name on the street. So both of these wines for me are must shares. Like, it's a no-brainer. They're both so good. And Antonin, thank you so much for sharing them with us because you've opened up my eyes, honestly. Like, this is a brand new experience for me. And now, I'm gonna have to try more natural wine because if this is what producers are pumping out, then I'm in. So thank you, and people go drink this and buy it because it's incredible.
Thank you.
Joel.
Yeah, I think this is probably the purest example of a must share that we've had in a very long time, because to me, the whole point of a must share is a really exceptional wine that you literally want to bring around and show people and say, this is a really cool wine and this is why. And that's what I would want to do with both of these. Just to your point, Colin, we haven't gone deep into natural wines. I've enjoyed a few, but I will say I've never had one that I've enjoyed this much, and I quite literally do want to go and share this and say this is what a natural wine can be when done right. So total must share on both, and absolutely, yeah, just appreciate you bringing them into the show and into our lives, Antonin. Fantastic work.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, and I mean, not to belabor the point, like, I think there's a lot of reasons we call things must shares in the show. Often it's because the wine is good, right? Like, that's great. But we often factor things in, like affordability of the wine.
Yeah.
If you have an okay wine that costs $40, that's a ding because it's not worth the price. But like, this is a really great wine at a really accessible price, and the
value I didn't
story
mention,
behind
right.
it is also really cool. You and Pierre's story is awesome, and the intentionality is what keeps popping into my mind. That everything you're talking about the grapes you choose and how you check for the quality, and using your dad as a gatekeeper, and like, it's the story itself would make it amazing, and then with the wines being so good, it's just like icing on the cake. So absolutely must share. We'd love to have them. Would love to feature any of your wines in the future because they're so
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah, absolutely. And just thank you so much for sharing them with us. My God, they're so good.
Well, it's been a pleasure. It's been a great conversation. And at first when I talked about Anna and she said it's Saturday, I wasn't so sure. Then I watched some of your podcasts and I was like, well, these guys sound like fun.
That's too
They'll
kind.
be,
Well, thank you.
they'll
And
be my,
again,
we'll do an apéro together. So I'll be fun. And that was fun.
yeah, no, we very much appreciate you taking the time out of your
Yeah.
Saturday evening, and love it. Before we let you go, is there anything you want to leave our listener with? Where can they find you? How's the best way to find your wines, especially stateside, and anything else you'd like to let them know?
Well, I mean, we have a pretty good distribution in the US because that was my forte back in the days. So West Coast, East Coast.
Nice.
You could look online. There's always not in the middle so much, not in Texas, but outside of that, along the East Coast, we're pretty much from Maine all the way down to Florida. You can find us in the specific stores, of course, not everywhere. But no, I think it's to your listeners. I would say, keep the mind open. Try resistant vitals. Just know that there is a world outside of Vitis vinifera, and that they'll get used to hearing about these varietals, and without they can still drink Chateauneuf du Pape and the Napa Valley wines, and let's pick an Italian one, Brunello. Let's be fair to everyone, and still enjoy what we make, because it's not something that want to erase the past. It's something it's a plus.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'll still drink Barolo, Napa, and Montebello Ridge 1994.
There you go. There's room for all. at
They
the
don't
table.
they don't lose their traditional wine card
Right.
by signing over to natural wines. They get to keep drinking all.
Yep.
All right. Again, thank you so much. Awesome episode. Folks home, please check out Pierre and Antonin, pierre-antonin.com. Check out their wines. If it hasn't near you, grab a bottle. It's totally worth it. And thanks for listening.
Thank you.
And remember, stop wasting your wine.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.